Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of ACFI, I welcome all of you to our 8th annual event. And thank you for sparing your valuable time to be with us today. I am speaking from New Delhi, and we have created a studio here. And you can see I have the core group here in the studio. So our president is here, our vice president ACFI is here, our honorary secretary is here, our members, event management team is here, and it's a pleasure to be speaking from here. We have the audience from across the globe and India. They will be joining us virtually. So we have suspended our ritual of a live audience event this time due to pandemic, and are in fact going to give you a different version, a hybrid experience, which I'm sure will give you immense pleasure to see, as this is the technology in use that we are bringing in. I hope you will like it, and kindly do share your views on this. The theme of the event is changing consumption patterns, transforming supply chains. Some of us asked, why this? In 2020, we faced such a situation where everybody was not sure what's happening or what will happen. Slowly, our trade started to work on the processes and started to think differently, and we changed the way we wanted to do things. Similarly, we found that the customer also was changing, his behavior was also changing. And this change in consumption patterns started to transform the supply chain logistics. And it was for this purpose we thought we will speak about different products here. Vaccine has been spoken for so long, so we thought we'll speak different products and give you a different insight to it. We have global, international, and Indian speakers and moderators who will be discussing this. In fact, we have speakers and moderators from UK, Germany, France, Doha, Singapore, Chennai, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, New Delhi, Mumbai, and Calcutta. So we have an eminent list of panelists and moderators who will discuss all this, and they will tell us about the new normal dynamics in 2021 and thereafter. Ladies and gentlemen, my team and I have worked very hard for this event, and I'm sure next year we will be doing a live audience. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy the 4 sessions that we have brought for you. Before we start our function, I'd like to request our president, Mr. Cyrus Katgara, to say the opening remarks and welcome, and then we will take it further. Cyrus ji.
Thank you, Arvind, for this short introduction. I'd first of all like to say that I put go on record to say that probably this is going to be the largest trade webinar in India, and we are expecting over a 4-figure registration. So I hope I'm right. We'll see how the events fold. But at this stage, I would just like to welcome everybody. A very warm welcome to everybody. I can see my friend, Mr. Adil Malia, who's ready to go for the keynote address. He's a great speaker. You're going to enjoy listening to him. And yeah, you just wait for that. We are thankful to all our valuable speakers from various parts of the country and overseas for their participation. Your presence has given a boost to the ACFI organizing team. ACFI is a unique association representing all stakeholders of the entire air cargo logistics and supply chain. ACFI works for the growth and development of the air cargo industry with progressive, liberalized policies of the government for rapid and sustainable growth of the Indian economy. I'm not here to give you a speech. I'm here to welcome everybody. You're going to listen to great speakers. And I throw the floor open. Arvind, will you take it over from me?
Yeah, thank you, Cyrus.
I officially declare the program open. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Cyrus. Before we move further, May I request the technical team to give us the audiovisual, please? Thank you, tech team, for this AV. And now, I introduce the host for this event, Parul Tulsresht. She's going to join us from Hyderabad. She's chief GMR Aviation Academy. And she will take you through the entire program. Over to you, Parul, and all the best.
From Air Cargo Forum India that brings us together every year. This year, the ACFI core team has brought together a panel of distinguished speakers from various spheres of trade. For you on the topic, changing consumption pattern, transforming supply chain. Over the last few months, we have all been discussing healthcare, life sciences over and over again. But with the start of vaccine movement worldwide, it is now important that we get back to talk about the major supply chains categories of the world, which are on e-commerce, fashion and retail, and electronics supply chain. So the industry today has already moved on from being a Far East-centric production. They are reimagining their supply chains, looking for positioning manufacturing and inventory locally, totally reimagining their distribution strategy. Hence, the ACFI core team has worked with amazing industry experts from supply chain, logistics, manufacturers, distributors, airlines, forwarders, airports, cargo terminals, even financial and payment systems, and government, all these stakeholders together today to give you both global as well as local emerging trends. The flow of today's session is such that we will have e-commerce and fashion and retail sessions during the first half, and government and electronics session in the second half of the day. To kickstart today's discussions, I first invite Mr. Sanjeev Edward, Honorary Secretary, Air Cargo Forum India, and Chief Commercial Officer Aero of Delhi International Airport Limited, the busiest airport in India. Earlier to this role, Sanjeev was heading the cargo business of DIAL, where he led the team to make IGI is #1 air cargo airport in the country. Sanjeev is currently the board member as well as the chairman of the International Air Cargo Agents Association, TIACA, where he leads the initiative on cargo service quality across all the major cargo airports and terminal ecosystems in the world. Sanjeev has also worked with British Airways for a decade earlier and has won several personal and corporate awards. He is an alumnus of Oxford Brookes University, UK. I welcome Mr. Sanjeev on this platform.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Parul, for the very generous introduction. And it's a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, this morning to actually stand on behalf of the Air Cargo Forum India and welcome you all to this event that we have in a new format that we're doing it, and I'm sure you would like it. It also gives me immense pleasure to be alongside with our distinguished guests, delegates from the global aviation industry, and people from around the globe who are joining us for this event. The pandemic has had different ramifications for different people, and as we look back, I would like to start off by looking at the positive side of the pandemic. One of the things is that we have become more conscious of human beings around us. Earlier we could just pass by somebody without even noticing that there's a human being, which is close to us. But now, at least for social distancing norms and making sure that we are safe, we are conscious of people around us. Are they following the social distancing norms, wearing masks and things like that? But the important thing is that we have moved from a very transactional kind of a relationship to a more relational. We are more getting closer to humans. The bonding and collaboration has grown stronger. If we see over the last few months, it's been driven by an instinct to survive. But I will say it's not limited to that. It's the feeling has been in the latter part of the last year. I've seen where people were thinking not just how to weather the storm, but how do we really come out stronger. And I saw this very closely, when around the month of May, June, July last year, when we were trying to, put this, make Delhi as a hub for distribution of PPEs across the country. And we distributed more than about 32 million PPEs. But what was important to see was that, how everybody in the supply chain is coming together, be it airlines, airports, forwarders, the regulators, the government agencies, all coming together. And, one of the important things is that the underlying factor in all of this is that the trust has grown manifold in these times. As they say, love for one another, which grows cold during a storm, gathers strength during a storm. But the trust which is there, the glue which is now putting the supply chain together, I think that is what is the key which will develop these transformed supply chains that we're talking about. And that's the theme that ACFI has picked up for our this event today. Keeping in view the changing consumption patterns, how the supply chains will change. Well, while the pandemic was using external forces to bring people together, ACFI has been working from within the industry to actually bring people together. So there is a lot of similarity in what we've been doing over the years. And ACFI has been a unique platform with all the cargo stakeholders, including industry associations, coming together under one umbrella, like some of the global organizations like TIACA are globally trying to do the same initiative, of which I had the privilege of chairing last couple of years back. ACFI has been in since its inception in 2012. It's worked on building a world-class, environment-friendly air cargo logistics industry using innovation, also providing business facilitation to boost the Indian economy. And while we look at, we reflect back what ACFI has been doing over the last few years, we see that, the ease of doing business has been one of the key things which has been driving Air Cargo Forum India. In fact, it has representation from all the key stakeholders. And to bring effectiveness in what ACFI is doing, it's actually built 5 very strong pillars. And these pillars, when we talk about, it's about process simplification. How do we, simplify how we do things in the air cargo industry? Policy advocacy, where we need to engage with the governments and see what needs to change for us to be more progressive and more keep us agile and adapt to the changing environment around us. It's also about skill development. I'll elaborate a little more about on that, what we've been doing under that head. It's also about knowledge and research. I think we have a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience that we have in our industry, but how do we use it to make things better as we look forward? There's also a pillar on event management, which actually you see this is what we're doing, which is bringing the industry together, making sure we are engaging with the industry. We are also giving the industry an opportunity to express their views, and also make sure that people can benefit from the views and from perspectives that the industry leaders are bringing, and this is one of its kind. So ACFI has also been very actively engaging with the government, pursuing trade promotion initiatives. Air Cargo Logistics Promotion Board, sponsored by the Ministry of Civil Aviation, is one such place where we very actively engage. We've been talking to the CBIC, Ministry of Finance, the DGFT, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, the Ministry of Environment and Forest, the Ministry of Textiles, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. They're some of the places that we've been engaging. And if we reflect, what is it that ACFI has really delivered to the industry? And I'm very happy, with all humility, to share that we've actually, some of the initiatives have been path-breaking, game changers for the industry. Things like 24/7, which was working for customs, which was a ACFI initiative. The uniform procedures for pharma exports across the country, another initiative of ACFI. Implementation of digital signatures, introduction of RMS. There are a lot of things which is happening. And now also, even as I speak, the ACFI leadership team has been very actively engaging with our Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, CBIC, for the faceless, contactless, automation, paperless, all of that. And I think it's pertinent to mention that in line with the ACFI recommendation, now we will have a centralized assessment pool, which is getting done in place. So, ACFI has been very successful in implementing, its initiative through its members. And if we look at, and one of the examples could be like Delhi Airport had implemented the paperless, the first of its kind in the country. The 100% export can be paperless. In fact, during the pandemic, introduced the e-gate, again, which was another initiative for delivery orders where you can do completely contactless deliveries. And like this, many airports and stakeholders which are ACFI members have been taking the lead in doing things. I talked about the initiative which ACFI has been taking about on skill development. Now, aviation, if some way it supports about 68 million jobs globally, and India is no exception. So seeing the need over there, ACFI actually launched 2 very important programs. One was called the Basic Cargo Awareness Program, and then there was the Advanced Air Cargo Program. The Basic Cargo Awareness Program has been an excellent, initiative which has been welcomed by the industry. We have, in fact, had about 70 programs which have been delivered already. And on the Advanced Program, we had 2 programs. We had the privilege of the first Advanced Air Cargo Training Program being launched by Madam Vandana Agarwal, a Senior Economic Advisor for the Ministry of Civil Aviation. This was in December 18, followed by the second Advanced Cargo Training Program, which was launched by Mr. Amber Dubey, who was Joint Secretary MOCA, on the 19th of December 20. This was a virtual program. But both of these put together, actually, ACFI has trained more than 3,150 people in the industry, which is something which really we need to be proud of and pat ourselves on the back, how as an industry we are coming together and delivering something that will make the industry a better place. When we look at the event that we're doing today, I think it's a very apt theme. Changing consumption patterns and transforming supply chains. The idea is how do we see what's changing around us? How do we understand that? How do we adapt to it? And this is what has been at the core of what ACFI has been doing. driving initiatives that bring awareness and facilitating changes on contemporary issues, policy issues, process enhancements, and setting up, an environment which is conducive for growth. And I think this is a very, very apt theme which the ACFI team along with the industry experts have picked up, and I'm sure you will benefit from it, what we are actually planning to do today. If we look at our industry, actually we are working in a very, very interesting industry. I was just reading some statistics, and I thought it might be worth sharing with you to set the context how important we are and what is the scale of our operations globally. If you look at a 24-hour cycle, globally in air cargo, what happens in the 24 hours? So, if about 80,000 flowers are transported globally every day, 24 hours. About 20 million parcels move around the globe. There's about 140,000 tons of cargo which moves globally, about 52 million annually. We also, in terms of value, we do about $18.6 billion of cargo is shipped every single day. And if you actually annually calculate, it's about 6 trillion worth of value. And when we look at what are we doing in terms of life saving and things like that, so almost about 7,000 lives was being saved every day by what we were transporting. But mind you, this is pre-COVID. So in COVID, this number is up many, many fold. In fact, even before that, we were doing about 62,000 tons of humanitarian aid, which was flowing across the world, on air, as air cargo. So when we look at the entire scenario of the spectrum of the air cargo industry, I think we are a very, very important part in the whole ecosystem. There are about 3,000 odd airports around the world, and and these are getting serviced by air cargo. It is also believed that the freighter fleet across the world will grow by about 3 times in the next 20 years or so. So when we look at what's ahead of us, I think we really need to be planning way ahead, and that's where ACFI has come in and come up with this initiative. The last year has been challenging. We've seen difficult times, but there's also the positive side of it. The industry-wide cargo load factor has grown about 7 percentage points. When we talk of India in the context of ACFI, India has shown a fairly good recovery. We are in December, we were about 91% of recovery, comparatively much better. So ACFI is looking at 4 areas and enablers for today's discussion. Changing trends in the e-commerce value chain, the future trends in fashion and retail, 2021 and beyond, electronics industry and evolving supply chain, and of course the government's role and support is very, very critical in all of this that we do. We've been working with our stakeholders to put all of this together. What you see today will be a collaboration of everybody coming together and saying what do we do to prepare ourselves going forward. But in conclusion, I'll say that you must have read in our paper as well, there are 3 themes that we want to do. How do we respond to all of this? How do we create a more elastic digital workplace? How do we reshape your marketing plans and how you're approaching your business? So you need to respond with the changing world around us. We need to reset. We need to redefine our relationships with our consumers, customers, reconsider products, what will work, what will not work, how we need to adapt, and also renew. So this is the most important part of it. Once you've understood it, then what do you start doing in a different way? And I'm sure as we start this day, on behalf of ACFI, once again, I'd like to welcome all of you to this event, and hope you will be able to join with us and stay with us throughout the day. It's a long day, but I'm sure it'll be a very, very productive day, and look forward to having you with us. And once again, my congratulations in advance to all the speakers who are there, and I'm sure they'll do a great job. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjeev, for the wonderful address and overview of where the industry is and where we are headed today. The keynote address today is by a very different renowned speaker, a business writer, a doodler, a corporate guru, Mr. Adil Malia, CEO of business management consultancy called The Firm. He has 4 decades of national as well as multinational experience, working with various boards with Godrej, GE, Marks and Spencers, Coca-Cola, and SR. He holds several degrees in commerce, law, HR, advanced management from Coca-Cola Wharton School, and has also been bestowed a Causa Honoris Doctorate in philosophy. He believes in developing a full stack all-round personality as key to the success, with humility and happiness as core values. Please enjoy your session with Adil Malia. Before I invite him, our president would also like to say a few words about Adil. Mr. President.
Hello, Adil. How are you? I did promise you that I'll see you live on the television, on live on the webinar. I wish you all the best.
Sir.
I know Adil for 25 years. He's entertaining me for 25 years. I'm sure he'll entertain all the viewers. Look forward, Adil. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Cyrus. And thank you, Sanjeev and Cyrus, for giving me this opportunity to be out here. And thank you, Parul, for giving me such a tall introduction. In fact, the greatest risk in the changing times is to begin a session by saying good morning, because there's a risk somewhere down the world it's not really morning, and somewhere down the line the people listening to you might not be having a good morning, and therefore the changing requirement begins from us. And as an observation, one apart, Sanjeev said that the social distancing. In fact, I, as a behavioral scientist, have a great problem of calling this entire process a social distancing process. No economy, no world, no sets of human people across any parts of the world could actually talk in terms of social distancing. What we are really talking is in terms of physical distancing, to be avoiding passing of these kinds of the coronavirus. But social distancing is something which is the last thing that we should be talking about. In fact, we should be talking about, when we are looking at social integration, we should be talking about coming together emotionally and socially to be able to handle the situation. So as I said, Parul, thank you very much for giving me such a tall introduction to the session. In fact, at times that creates a kind of a performance pressure, because you have to again create that kind of a renewal of your reputation. In fact, this reminds me of this very beautiful short anecdote which I had read about Aristotle. Because Aristotle was constantly being pressurized by all his students and disciples to keep addressing their conventions every time they met. In fact, one day he got so exasperated that he told his disciples that, children, all I know is I know nothing, and you don't even know that. So that's the kind of situation one is in this parts and this kind of time, because we really don't know what. We live in a world of black swan events, and I'm sure that each one of you is quite familiar with what are black swan events. The world, until it was found, always believed that swans are white. No one ever believed that swans are black. And some of you who may have read The Black Swan Effect by Talib would have realized what I'm talking about. But the world, until the black swans were found out, believed that the swans were only white. But after the citation of black swans, the entire ecological understanding of the universe changed, because there were quite a few such events which were happening, which were least expected. In fact, look at it this way. The kind of experiences that we have gone and experienced in the last 12 months reminds me of this very beautiful quote, which says, "तूफा की कमी नहीं जिंदगी में, हंसते हुए सफर तय करना होगा, जो मिले हैं जख्म सफर राहों में, उसे जिंदगी का तजुर्बा समझना होगा, लाख जख्म खाने पर भी हर जख्म नया ही होगा, तजुर्बा चाहे कितना भी हो, हर तजुर्बा नया ही होगा." Despite each one of us having experienced different kinds of adversities in our management roles and having managed all those adverse situations, this experience that we got was a uniquely different experience, and none of us could really say that we knew what was happening, and none of us really even now know that actually how the future is going to change, and therefore what is it that we ought to be doing at this point of time. That is what the human experiences are all about. The unknown, uncertain event that we went through, and even now we are going through. I'm in Bombay and we are experiencing it even now, the kind of right we are. I may be without a mask, but I'm carrying my mask around, is very, very unique and different. That actually an unknown and an uncertain event cocked a snook at us. It literally teased us into saying all the collective knowledge, all the collective experiences, all the collective wisdom and exposure is not able to find a solution to one such uncertain event that we are talking about. And this is where we come to black swan events. Black swan events predominantly are events which come, number one, is the total surprise. And when it comes as a total surprise, no one is anticipating it. No one really knew there are black swans till they were sighted. Until that time, it was this. And after they were sighted, beyond the element of surprise, it has the ability to thoroughly destroy the knowledge, science, logic, and experiences of the people until that point of time. So it is about redefining the norms, about redefining the new paradigm, and these events are paradigm redefining events which happen. Now, it is not for the first time that the world is experiencing a black swan event. Through 3,200 years, which is the life estimation of what the world was all about, in that period of time, many black swan events happened. Unfortunately, the time between two successive black swan events used to be a long period of time, and therefore there was sufficient time available for the world and the universe which was dealing with it to cope with it, to adjust with it. Unfortunately, what we are now experiencing and what the international research is indicating is that we are living in an age of black swan events, where more and more these events are going to keep happening, which will keep redefining the periods that we are living in. And the time gap between two black swan events are not going to be that long, which will give you sufficient time to adjust. By the time you realize what has happened, by the time you put your adjustment tones on, it is time for the new black swan event to happen. Examples of a black swan event: collapse of Russia. Whoever knew that USSR was going to collapse? Whoever knew that Britain was going to get out of Brexit? Whoever knew that Twin Towers are going to be bombed? So those are the kind of black swan events which are going to redefine, and they're going to keep happening more and more as frequently as you are in. All right, so that's one thing. Now, when these black swan events happen in the world around, and you have no control, let's understand. Over the black swan events, no individual has any control. It happens due to a lot of universal factors over which no individual country, nation, can't talk about China, but certainly people do not have control over those kinds of events. At that point of time, the market goes into a different situation. And in the world of management consulting, the markets start behaving in what we call Kabbalistic markets. Now, what are Kabbalistic markets? Kabbalistic markets are those markets where, due to such events, the fundamental principles on which it was working, the logic on which it was working, suddenly starts misbehaving, and the people who were running the systems earlier are unable to understand the norms and the knowledge which is making that market behave in the way it is behaving. So it is giving a sense of feeling to people who are operating in the markets as if the market is in a control of an occult, such that some magical things are happening, but they don't know how to make it happen. Now, always when black swan events happen, and you would have experienced it, that all the supply chain and the logistics knowledge that you had accumulated over a period of time, during this period, would actually not really apply, and some different norms and things were happening over which you had no understanding of how to make your results and your value come on. So those are the kinds of markets which you will experience when you will see a black swan event coming, and more frequently now. There are three things that we always advise companies to do, because people don't know what to do. They are in a state of confusion. So the three things we tell them to do is, number one, wait and watch for a short period of time. Over a short period of time, do not try to change any fundamentals, because we do not know how long or how deep or how cashful these things are. So between 3 to 6 months, 7 months, if it is not really, if you can really afford to bear until that time, wait and watch, because some changes might be very costly at a later point of time. So we would say wait and watch. If it is a medium-term situation, This is so in the short run, you can introduce programs. So short-term programs could be introduced to be able to tide over the situation. This is the problem. All right, do some program and offer those programs to the market or your customers. If it is a medium-term period, which you believe that in the next 3, 4, 5 months, things will become very normalized, then the recommendation is that start working on your organization systems and processes. But if you are really of the opinion that this situation is going to be so worse, that it is going to last beyond a year, and that actually whatever programs you have tried have not given you results, the systems and processes modifications that you have tried are also not delivering the value that you want to deliver, at that point of time, you will have to do strategic thinking. You will have to do what we call design thinking, and you will have to change your business models. Now, this is one thing that we understand, that the larger corporate world understands, but the supply chain companies still are always toying with this whole idea of business modeling. Most companies don't realize the criticality of a very successful and a strong business model. And unless and until they have a business model which is aligned to all the 4 elements of a business model, the results will cause you a problem. Your customer is only a weathercock. He is literally like the cock which you see on a weathercrow, the one that is always on the top of a roof. But we will talk about it at a later point of time. Let me invest 5 minutes of time and try to explain to you what is a business model. So a business model at any point of time has to be in a state of alignment, and it is comprising of 4 parts. The first is the economic opportunity, which is created or disturbed by 2 elements. One, a predominant technology, or an overbearing adversity. So a predominant technology tries to redefine the economic opportunities, or an overbearing catastrophic adversity that comes in has the ability to destroy the economic opportunities with which your organization may be in a state of balance until that time when that event happens. So number one, constant need for you to keep researching and trying to find out as to what is happening in the economy, and therefore what are the opportunities available for you, and which of your old opportunities have got shaken up. The second is to reset. So number one, economic opportunities. Number two, start looking at your renewal of your missions, your vision, your value creation journey, and your financial numbers. Because your financial numbers cannot be in isolation of the economic opportunities. Even if the previous economic opportunities were what they were, you will have to keep redefining it in light of the new situation and always be in a state of alignment. The third is your internal playbook, which means your organizational strategy, your organizational processes, your organizational programs, and everything that you do in your company to reset those and achieve those financial targets, which are linked to the financial opportunities in the market. And the fourth is the right leadership and the right culture in the organization. And how do you go around creating the anti-fragile leadership? The new terminology used for leadership in the current situation is called anti-fragile. Because during peacetime, all kinds of leadership is prevailing and everyone is a hero. It is in moments of adversity when markets change very drastically, that is the time when you require anti-fragile leadership, which means it has a high level of tenacity, at the same time, simultaneously, a high element of flexibility. And between this, the fragile material becomes an anti-fragile material and is able to provide leadership. Now, when this alignment is gone, when this alignment is lost because of a predominant technology or an overbearing adversity, the balance is lost. And when the balance is lost, what do good companies do? Number one, agility. Number two, drive. Number three, innovate. And number four, learning. Coincidentally, the acronym is ADIL, which will be easy for you to remember because we are talking about Organizations cannot, like Rip Van Winkle, go to sleep. You have to wake up. If you are sleeping, you will lose the battle. Number one, therefore, agility. Number two, therefore, a drive, a passionate drive to achieve the purpose. Number three is innovate. Because whatever you were doing in the past, if you continue to do what you were doing, you are fighting wars of tomorrow with weapons of yesterday. And that is not going to happen. So therefore, you will have to do innovation. And last is learning in the system as a capability, and with a leadership which is focused on learning. That's what most organizations do to be able to drive themselves out of the situation. Now, when this alignment is gone, your customer is actually the weathercock. Like the weathercock, years ago, the world realized that there is a great need for the wind to be observed, because the wind was the determinant in those days of where the ships were coming, and they could identify when and at what time the ships would be able to land on the ports, and there were no other radars and the other advanced instruments. At that time, the concept of the weathercock was identified, and the weathercock was used for that. The weathercock also announces the oncoming of the dawn. Therefore, you needed some device which would indicate the change and the change of winds that were happening. Similar is the concept of your customers. So when we are talking about business models and your supply chain systems, we are saying that your customer is the weathercock, which constantly announces the change that is happening, as the consequence of which it will tell you what are the kind of changes that you need to make in the organization, including your supply chain systems. Let us therefore see what is the consumption pattern which is changing over a period of time, because I think the entire focus of this convention is on trying to look at how the changing consumerism or how the changing consumption patterns are indicating, and therefore the basic consumption pattern is what are your consumers' psychographics, what are their demographics, who's buying, who's selling, what are the needs, because ultimately everything falls in line with the need satisfaction process, which is the final consumer. Number one, your consumers today are exposed to a wide range of alternatives, which earlier was happening, but you will suddenly realize that the lockdown and the subsequent events that happen has actually now opened his mind to the fact that a wide variety of these things can, on an e-retailing basis, be available to him, and he is focused on that. Number two, digital collapsing the physical distancing. So digitization is actually collapsing the physical distance of the world, and supply chain is making it happen, because unless and until you with speed are able to service the needs that he's throwing up, you will not be able to have your supply chain effectively being servicing the consumer and his choice and needs. Number three is your consumer is seeking speed. He has no time to wait. He's impatient. The contemporary consumer is impatient. After he goes on the net and says, I'm interested in buying this, he is not willing to wait too long for you to respond at a delayed point of time. He is an information glutton, so he wants all kinds of information. He's a communication sweetheart. He wants you to be communicating, not only delivering. So he wants to connect with you. He wants to engage with you as a supplier. And he wants it fast, but at the same time in an engaging and a rewarding way. He wants to be rewarded for coming to you when he's buying the things. The profile of the decision makers have changed. You will now have a diverse and inclusive set of people who will be dealing with you, not the old 65-year-old experienced people who are giving you orders. You will have younger profiles of people. More of them will now soon be coming, that there'll be women coming in, transgenders coming in. Are you now focusing on their needs? Are you looking at the segment of the people to understand what they are looking at and what is the consumption pattern going to change? And they want to avoid the middle person. The consumption pattern wants to go directly to the supplier, does not want to operate through a lot of middle people, because technology is making it happen. Therefore, your supply chain patterns will help to accommodate how you're going to directly connect to the supplier and not operate through agencies in between, because the modern day consumer is wanting to go directly to the supplier and does not want to operate through the middle agencies. And likewise, if you will see, there are similar patterns of changes happening even in the B2B consumer, B2B customers, right? Sorry? You are talking about the time. All right. So now when you're looking at, in light of all of this, the kind of transformation of your supply chain, what is it that we need to be doing to be able to transform the supporting supply chain? Number one is the supply chain systems, and this is our experience with some of our clients as well, large clients, that they are not holistic. They continue to look at the entire supply chain in bits and pieces, versus the operating success of supply chain comes only if it is looked holistically and it has integrated all the elements, and that is very, very important. Unfortunately, it is also believed that supply chain is seen just because it is being serviced by a third-party agency. The supply chain, which is critical to the business, is not strategically linked to the entire business process, and therefore an isolated supply chain is not able to deliver to the requirement of the organization's readiness to be able to succeed in the future. It certainly requires committed leadership. And I'm going to be talking to you in the next 2 minutes only, which I have got, about a certain 3x3 matrix, which is very critical if you want to really transform your supply chain processes. Number one is understand that there are 3 actors only which are going to help you transform your entire supply chain. One is the organization, how you have structured your organization, what is the culture of your organization, what is the element of flexibility in your organization, and how agile is your organization to make and adopt those changes. Organization. Number 2 is your talent in the organization. Do you have the right kinds of people? Do you have people who only understand the processes, or they are also connecting with customers? Do they have emotional quotient? Do they have the value quotient? And do they have the transformational quotient that is required to be able to bring the change? All right. So organization, talent, and the third is the technology. These are the 3 actors. And I'll tell you the 3x3 matrix that we're talking about. In technology, of course, you know that AI is coming in, robotics, big data, critical blockchain, which is coming. Whilst there are supply chain consultants who say that blockchain is not going to have an impact, I am willing to lay my last buck on it. The future of supply chain markets are going to be redefined by the coming in of blockchain, and which is not going to limit itself only to the cryptocurrencies and all. It is going to be very, very impactful determinant. Now, when you look at the 3x3 matrix, there are 3 things you have to see, 3 elements. Customer experiences, number 2, operational processes, and third is the alignment of business models. These are the 3 critical elements every organization in supply chain will have to ensure that these 3 elements are in place. Now, in each of these 3 elements, there are 3 sub-elements. So if you look at these 9 things, you will be able to, over a period of time, transform this requirement successfully in your organization. So customer experiences, what kind of integration with the changing profile we are doing? Are you focusing on the top line growth which comes with it? Does it enhance the customer's experience at every touch point in your organization? That is very important. And when you do that, you will be able to do that. Also, when you're looking at operating processes, number 1, are you doing your process digitization, which is very important? Is the employee enabled? Are you enabling him, or are you just telling him the processes are done? Are you coping with him? Are you developing him? Are you still developing his needs so that he is able to service your customers well? And do you have the right data? Because when blockchains and systems like this will operate, you will be able to transform your supply chain systems only when you have strong control over your data and there is a database decision management process. And of course, continuous review of alignment of the external environment with your financial terms, with your playbook, and with a strong sets of leadership. Now, you're going to ask me this question, can we do it? Will we be able to do all of this? No one does all the 9 together. but somewhere you have to begin. And this is what I would tell this journey. We all now know that these are the things which are required to transform. Today, you need to be discussing with all the experts who are coming out here. And I see some great experts like Sanjeev Gupta, who once upon a time was my boss in Coca-Cola. So the question is, where do we start? So it says, हासिल होगे वो ऊंचे मकाम, हासिल होगे वो ऊंचे मकाम, तू पहला कदम रख के तो देख, फिर जलेंगे वो बुझे चिराग, तू चिंगारी बन के तो देख. And ladies and gentlemen, I invite you at this point of time to put the first fire and say, if you have to transform, begin from one point. Don't get daunted by the 9 elements. And I wish you good luck. And whatever help you want at any point of time, more than welcome. Thank you very much. I know that within a short spell of time, I had to convey this. I would have loved to be actually handling a master class, but to compress a master class in a 20-minute session was a tough call. Thank you very much, and I wish you good luck.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adil, for such relevant corporate business mantras today. And I hope our audience is charged now. And I request the IT team to now play the AV for the first business session. Thank you again.
We have many times been asked the question how we got the name Gina. It was in the year 1900 where our great-grandfather, Mr. Palanji Kadgara, being passionate and an entrepreneur, wanted to start a business, but due to lack of finances, was unable to do so. He then approached his dear friend, Mr. Gina, for a loan, which was initially declined, and subsequently, Mr. Gina offered to gift the amount to him, a princely sum of $75, with the sole condition that the business be named after him. Even after 100 years in existence, we continue to maintain the ethics and high service standards expected of a well-established and respected brand such as Gina. Being amongst the oldest freight forwarders in the country, Gina has always been looked up as a pioneer and a trendsetter within our industry. As a responsible corporate entity, we have always believed in supporting the weaker section of society. In the year 1982, a charitable trust, Kadgara Foundation, was set up. Several thousands of people have benefited from our charitable trust over the years.
I'm proud to be standing here in front of our founders of Gina & Company. CRISIL has given us the top rating for financial strength and operating performance. Our endeavor is to always upgrade the skills of our staff to meet the demand of the times. Recently, we introduced the mobile apps on iOS and Android. The motto of Gina is heart counts and not head counts.
We at Gina's, we believe in excellence and we really pursue this with all our spirits. So whatever parameters we put down from the systems to monitor our performance are based on customer expectations. All the national forwarders of our size have been either taken over or bought by multinationals. We would be more or less the last one left. Not that in our long years of service we've not had very tempting offers from multinationals to buy us out, but we have one standard reply, that Gina is not a business for us, it's our hobby. How can one sell a hobby? We welcome you to Gina.